Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Thanks for tuning in again. I am getting ready to load the truck and the boat up with a bunch of rods and reels and baits and tackle that I think I'm going to need for Lake Guntersville for the fourth stop of the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit event, which starts next week. I leave tomorrow. I got about a 14-hour drive, which sounds bad, but it's really not that bad for me. That's kind of a close one. With today's gas prices, it's not that great no matter where you're at. I filled up this morning, $159 to fill the truck up, $5.17 a gallon I paid for diesel. I think it was like 30 or 31 gallons. Pretty ridiculous, but you know what? That's part of the game. So I spent the morning rigging rods. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do. I always feel like this is one of those things. I feel like it should only be a 5-rod tournament, and I end up rigging up like 20 different rods for a bunch of one-off circumstances. But in this case, we were at Pickwick 2 weeks ago, and in that case, we had spawning fish, pre-spawn fish, post-spawn fish, and I know there were a bunch of pros that practiced Guntersville before the Pickwick event because it was before our off-limits period, so they were allowed to do that. And at that point, they said there were a lot of fish on beds. So I have to imagine we're on the back half of the spawn, moving into the post-spawn blues, and potentially even have some fish that are out on the ledges. So having said that, I think you're going to be able to fish almost any way that you want in this event, which creates the issue of what do you rig up? Do you rig up shallow rods? Do you rig up deep rods? A little bit in between. And that's what I did. I've got stuff from ledge stuff all the way to super shallow water stuff. I think you're going to be able to fish shallow still. I think maybe you can find a few beds. Maybe you can throw a frog. Maybe you can throw some top waters, because I think there'll be a lot of fish that are still shallow, either on bed or fry guarding, or at least working their way out to the main river channel. And that's how I would prefer to fish. My biggest weakness as an angler, as much as I don't want to admit it, it's fishing ledges, fishing like Tennessee River ledges. That's one thing that I've had issue with. I can find fish. The problem is I don't find the small pods. I find the big pods that everybody else fishes, and you know, they're the most obvious groups of fish. And I don't want to do that at Guntersville. I want to fish my strengths, which is fishing like that mid-range from 10, 12 foot of water up to the bank. That's really where I shine as an angler. So that's what I'm going to try to find. Now, we only have 2 days of practice, which is tough, especially on a lake like Guntersville that's so big. You can go anywhere from down lake way up the river towards the Nickajack Dam. And I think there's going to be fish everywhere. One thing we know about Guntersville is it's a body of water that can produce winning fish from down lake to upriver and anywhere in between. So for me, I've got a few areas from history that I prefer to fish, and I'll probably concentrate in those areas and try to make that work. If it doesn't work though, I'm not going to be afraid on the first day of the tournament to go fish completely new water. You know, my history on Guntersville is, even though it's one of the best lakes in the country, I normally find it somewhat difficult to catch a limit. I don't think it's a place you go, and I don't think most people feel like it's the place you go and catch numbers of fish. It's the type of place you go and the average size is really good. So a lot of times the weights are distorted at the top end because they're a lot of 15 to 20 pound bags. The reality is though, a lot of people are only catching 6 or 7 keeper fish and they're coming in with 17 or 18 pounds. So that's where I want to be. I think in this tournament, you're going to need to be, you know, in that, to make day 3, the top 50 cut, you probably need 14 pounds a day. And if you want to fish day 4, you probably need 17 pounds a day. So that's my goal weight, 17 a day to make day 4. At that point, you do whatever to try to swing for the fence and hit the home run. But guys, just to go over some of the setups I have, you know, if you watch my recent video on post-spawn fish, you know I love fishing topwater baits for post-spawn fish. I think that's a great way to go, and I've got several here rigged up. Specifically, I feel like a buzzbait. This is the Dirty Jigs Scott Canterbury Pro Buzz, one of the best buzz baits on the market. And then I've just got here just a Boss Grub as a trailer, a Berkeley Boss Grub. And I'll be throwing this on the MB843 MHX blank with the Abu Garcia MGX Revo reel. It's an 8.3, it's a faster reel, but this is gonna be a search bait for me. That's gonna be a bait where I'm just going down the bank trying to get blowups. I'll have the hook covered over. I'm just trying to generate bites. In areas that are a little bit more weeded over and slopped over, I'm gonna be throwing a frog. In this case, I've got a Depths Buster K. This is a really good frog. If you guys haven't used it, it's a really good frog. It's a little bit hard to find at times. I think Tackle Warehouse is sold out of them, but I'll be throwing this on the MB843 blank, or 874 blank. Just a nice stiff rod. Really what I'm looking for is just to cover water with the buzzbait. If I find areas that are too thick for the buzzbait, I'll throw a frog. But I'm just trying to generate bites. The hooks are covered over on those. You know, one other thing that I think is going to be going on is the potential for a shad spawn. Guntersville is not a huge shad spawn lake, but you still are dealing with a lake that's got a shad spawn going on. And the reason I think Guntersville is not a huge shad spawn lake in terms of fishing it is because you can fish it almost anywhere and have the shad spawn going on. What I mean by that is shad will be spawning in the grass, on hard bank, on docks, on, you know, wherever. And Guntersville is so loaded with cover that the shad spawn happens everywhere, and you don't have key areas that the bass key in on like you may have on a Pickwick Lake or some of the other lakes. So it's not a huge factor there, but it will definitely be happening. And if you can find an area that the bass are using, you can catch several fish in the beginning of the day, which is going to start you off in the good direction. So for that, I'm gonna have a spinner bait on. This is the Mega Bass. I don't even recall exactly what it's called. I can put the link in the description, but it's one of my favorite spinner baits. It's I wanna say it's like the Deep V Destroyer or something like that. It's got a funny Mega Bass name, but it's a good spinner bait. Along those same lines, I'm gonna have a Berkeley hollow belly rigged up, and I've got it rigged, if you guys can see it. It's rigged in the stupid swim bait style, which is going to be really key on a place like Guntersville that has a ton of grass, a ton of wood, especially in practice. I want my bait to come through clean. I'm trying to generate bites. I'm going to have the hook covered over anyways, so I'm not looking to catch the fish. But I do have a Berkeley hollow belly on, which is a great bait. It's a known bait to catch fish on Guntersville. And then along that same lines, to generate a big bite, and kind of a shad spawn deal, I'm gonna have a big glide bait on. It's not that big. This is a 6-inch HP swim bait. Just one of the best swim baits out there. Really tough bait to get again, but I know it produces good fish. And that's one of those baits that I'm gonna have just kind of for that one-off cast if I wanna make it here or there, or I have a decent limit, maybe I'll switch over to that. But it's a glide bait's a really good search bait. You can see big fish and go back later in the tournament and catch those fish. Remember, these are practice baits. These probably will change, but this is what I'm starting with, at least the ones that I expect to do well. Next up, I've got here just a heavy pitching rod. It's got a 1 ounce weight with a Berkeley Pit Boss on the FP 936 flipping stick. So this is going to be for flipping thick grass. I'm expecting matted grass. I know we're behind from a spring standpoint, so maybe it won't be to the surface yet. But history says in May that there usually is a grass flipping bite. So if I can find that, that's one thing I'd like to look for. But a lot of times finding that grass flipping bite is like finding the needle in the haystack. So it's something that I expect to try, but I don't know that it's going to pan out. But I definitely have a heavy 1 ounce tungsten weight on for that. And then last but not least, like I mentioned in my pre-spawn video, one of the absolute best baits that you can throw during the post-spawn, not pre-spawn, post-spawn, is a Wacky Rig. So I've got a Wacky Rig rigged up here. This is the Berkeley 5-inch Max Scent General in the watermelon green pumpkin laminate color, which is one of my favorites. Super natural, if you can see that. Kind of fades from dark green to light green. And I expect that that's going to be something where you can just cover water throwing a Wacky Rig anywhere from, 8 feet or less. And I think you're going to catch fish doing that. I think it's just such a good way to put a slow moving bait in front of lethargic fish that are coming off of the spawn. I don't know that it's something that you're going to do to generate like really good weights. I don't know that the winner's going to do it, but there will be a lot of check cashers that I think are just going around throwing a wacky rig. And at this point, you know, Guntersville for me, I have a love-hate relationship. My biggest bag in Major League Fishing history for me was from Guntersville. I weighed 25.5 pounds in a Toyota event. I've got some really good finishes and I've got some not so good finishes, which really just goes in hand with it being a TVA lake. That's kind of my history. I either do well, cash a check, or I usually have a bomb. So I want to avoid the bomb. My goal here is to get out of here with a top 50. Top 10 is what I'm shooting. Well, I'm shooting to win, guys. I know every time I say what the goal is, everyone's like, you got to fish to win. I am fishing to win. Have no doubt about I'm fishing to win. The reality is, in my opinion, the smallest goal I need to obtain, the first goal I need to obtain is a top 50. To move on, you know, into the top 10, I got to make the top 50 first. And as well, I need some solid points. I'm sitting right around that championship cutoff line. This is one where I feel like if I can secure a top 50, it's going to move me well inside the championship cutoff line. And I've got 2 tournaments coming up that I'm looking forward to and I feel good about. So I want to propel myself up into the points right now, make a good check, get a good showing, maybe win the tournament, but more than anything, I need to cash a check and I need to secure some good points. So that's the plan right now, guys. Stay tuned. I'll have this video come out sometime in the next couple of days before the tournament, and then stay tuned. So Wednesday of next week, we'll have, or Thursday, I guess, the first day of the tournament, I'll talk with Miles Berghoff. We'll do our pre-tournament meeting. I'll have a video with Chris Grub where we'll talk about our Berkeley picks for the tournament. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm really curious to see what Miles has to say. I haven't talked to him because he's fishing Lake Chickamauga. And man, this is going to be one of those tournaments. It's going to flip-flop the standings. It always does. So I'm looking forward to it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in purchasing some of these baits, check out the links I have in the description of the video. It'll take you to Tackle Warehouse. It's my affiliate link. It's a really good way to support the channel. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned. Another video coming out tomorrow. Thanks, guys.